Excellent. Thank you guys so incredibly much for joining us on another episode of Starseed Activations. I think this is way too bright. That's the one I normally do. You know, when I have the ring light on, it's absolutely crazy because if I leave it really bright, I see it for hours after I go to sleep. And I'm like, it's like a giant ring in my eye. I don't think that it's healthy to be using these, but you have to see, right? We need light. So today has been one of those days. It's just super. I feel like I just woke up. Like the whole day has just bam passed me by. And so we were supposed to click on this live today at 4. I'm really sorry. We had the last class ran over, and then the kids, all the stuff. So hold on one second. Let me get to the chat. Okay. So today, 7 p.m., we are doing an energetic grid class. So in this class, we're going to be teaching you guys how to fully access the energetic grids, how to pull them apart. We're going to dive into how to release density or karmic residue that's on the grids from a past life. Our people are saying there's going to be so many different topics. The actual slideshow that I put together for the energetic grid class is a bunch of pretty pictures. And so there's no words because I wanted to keep the class as downloaded as possible, because it means that all the people who actually attend the class, they're going to be getting the exact information that they need. I find that when you put words in a slideshow, you end up reading the slideshow and it's not allowing the full contact and communication to go through. So I actually just finished the 3 p.m. class. And I was amazed at some of the information that came through. And so, of course, as I'm speaking, I'm not writing it down. So I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. But the 7 p.m. class, I am going to record. So I set the options so that your video cameras don't turn on, so that you don't have to have your face on the recording in case we decide to distribute it. And so maybe we'll do something later on or sell the video. So this way you guys don't have to actually be on film. Plus, there's a lot of information that's going to come across. So it's very, very valuable to know. This is a precursor to the attachment release class. So I can sit here and I can teach you guys how to do attachments. I could do it for you, but you don't become powerful and strong by letting other people heal you. And so we really have to learn to step into our own power. I had to do it in 2019. I had to learn how to heal myself. I had to go through this whole journey, and it's not a one and done. It's a journey. It's a baby stepping process. Hi, Rayanne. Welcome, welcome. Yes. That's okay. I have a message, 7 p.m. Yeah, wonderful. It only says Facebook user, so I can't really see you. But it's important for us to learn how to do our energetics on our own, because when we learn how to do these things, it makes us very, very powerful. And so when you take control of your energetics, this should be more important than like waking up and having a cup of coffee or eating breakfast, right? We should be waking up and focusing on the energetics. So if you wake up, let's say for an example, you wake up, you tune into the energetics, and you notice that there's a slight imbalance in the root chakra, you can nip it in the bud before you exit your home and before you go about your day. So if there is a density or distortion in the root chakra and you heal it, then when you're going about your day, let's say you were going to fall down and get hurt. Now, all of a sudden, you've healed the root chakra, so you didn't need the lesson of falling down and getting hurt. So everything manifests because of these energetic grids. So when we start to really take responsibility for our energetics, and not only that, but there's reflections. And so, for example, when you do something, you have something that you are focused on in your life, it's going to reflect in all the people around you. Those are reflections. When you are trying to manifest something into your physical world or reality, then that you're going to start to see the reflections. And so wherever your focus is going, the reflections are going to be popping up. Now, I see billboard signs on my way to go to one of the stores I go to. And so, but every time, depending on what I'm focused on, so the 1 week I was focused on the peace sign. So the alien with the peace sign that I keep using in all my advertisements and all that stuff, right? Everything was, I was researching peace, peace, peace. Now all of a sudden the peace sign shows up on a billboard. I took a photo of it. I couldn't believe it. And it was like, let's bring peace, which is all like everything that I talk about on a daily basis. And so, but that's a reflection of something that's coming from inside of me, reflected on the outer world. And so now whatever you see on the outside world, what is it? So start to take notice to the reflections and what's on the inside of you. So, for example, if your car's engine light goes on, right? And so let's say every time you get in the car, the engine light goes on. What I do is I go inside the body. What's the engine of the body? Is it the heart? So am I having something to do with the heart? Right? And so where's the synchronicity? So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a disease in your heart. It means there's a distortion in the energetics that needs to be healed. And so you can very easily go in, drop into the heart chakra. And so you clear out any density, any darkness, you recode it with green. And so it could be white light from the higher self. You can push into that chakra and it can recode it for you naturally. But attachment releases is very important. But the precursor is knowing your energetic grids. Now, for example, each and every one of us, we know our physical body because we see it every day. We touch it, we shower it, we wash it. We know every single aspect of our body. But how well do you know your energetic grids? How do they feel? Have you ever sat in a chair and closed your eyes and just held your hands out and tried to feel your aura field? There's a lot of information in the energetics. And so when you start to close your eyes and sense the space outside your physical form, it actually will allow you to sense different things. You can sense entities. You can sense different attachments. You can sense extraterrestrials. You can sense when one of your friends drops into an astral projection and they project into your bedroom and they're watching you. You can feel their essence. And so think about it this way. We'll always take the example grandmother. And so let's say you know how your grandmother feels. I know how mine feels. She had very, very soft fingertips. She had this essence of herself. So whenever I know that she's in the room with me or she's with me, I can feel her presence. Now, when you remote view, it's more of an astral projection. When you pull your soul out of your body and you go bouncing in your friend's bedroom, they can feel your essence. And most of the times we do it automatically. We feel this. So you may feel like someone's watching you. And so that's how you know that there's another soul form in the room with you. Now, the extraterrestrials, it can be a little tricky to sense them because even me, a lot of the times I don't sense all of them. And they say that it would be very overwhelming if I did. That's why my Starman, I sense him. I know he's with me 24/7. But sometimes my entire bedroom gets filled with angels, guides, star people, and all sorts of orbs and fun things, or everything is happening here. And so if I sensed all that, it could panic me, right? And so they do baby steps. They allow what senses comes to me. So as a channel, I'm very sensitive to different frequencies. Now, I always have been. And I personally believe that my pineal gland is very, very sensitive, which is why I do not mess with psychedelics at all. I've never tried them. I never will. So, or I shouldn't say I never will. I have no intention on trying them. So we'll see how the future goes. I don't like to say I'm going to do stuff because then it's like if I do it later on, it breaks my word. So I like to leave open ends, right? So we'll see because I live in the moment more. And so living in the moment, it allows me to wake up and then bop, bop, the entire day is done. And so here it is. It's already 4:48 in the afternoon. So, right? That's just the way I personally flow. It is also a form of 5D perception when you think about it. So when you wake up in the morning, you're not focused on your clock. You're not focused on the sun. You're focused on what can I do in this very moment to make me the best me possible. And so then you can either make a mental list, right? What are some baby steps that I can take today to make me feel better? We're not trying to be worldwide athletes, right? We're very grounded in the physical world. This is where we live. We're stay-at-home moms. We are your mailmans. We are, your FedEx drivers. Everyone on this life, we are regular people. And so, yeah, some of us have a lot of money, but guess what? Having a lot of money does not make you happy. And so that doesn't really matter. What matters is how does it make you feel, right? And so I've had opportunities to have a whole ton of money in my closet and there's nothing I need, right? And so we've been to all the attractions. Like, what more do you really need? We need tribes. We need community. We need to be happy. We need to have funny people around so that we laugh, right? And then we need to be focused as a group. And so this is the reason why even going to work, when you go to work, it's a group setting because we flourish when we are in groups because there's different ideas. There's different tasks that come up. We can achieve great things when we come together. So we know this too, because subconsciously it's together we rise, divided we fall. And so what happens when a person gets into a form of isolation? They generally tend to fall. They spiral down. They become sick. So they did studies where they isolated prisoners And so the prisoners that were left in the isolation the longest, they went crazy. And so they had mental diseases after being in isolation too long. And that's actually because there's an energetic transference that happens among people. So when we know this, then we know it's very important to have a community of support around us. How exactly do we plan on having a community if everyone has to work a million hours a week? Right? The only way that we are doing it right now is online. And so we come to live meetups and we have these types of conversations and we feel like a community and we talk on Facebook, right? That's a community. It's online and we can do it anytime we see fit. So I can answer your text at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can hit me back later on, right? And then that is a form of energetic communication as well. And so each and every one of you guys who interacts with my material, you and I are having an energetic transference right now. Not to even mention that the star people, they're doing DNA activations and all sorts of energetic clearings on you guys. And most of the times they show up in your bedrooms and all sorts of wild and amazing things happen. Like, it's just so much fun to see the progression. So, but you have to allow it. You have to want to make the communication with them. You have to want to allow them to come in and help you. And so I had to, and it's a very humbling process, right? They humble me sometimes too. So yeah, money is a tool. It absolutely is. And so you can even see it. People who have a whole boatload of it and just, it means nothing when you don't have friends and family around you, right? So there's some things more valuable than money. And so we came here to have the full human experience. And the human experience, it makes us have this degree of separation where we look at each other not like we're family, not like we are one civilization. We don't look at each other like we're each brother and sisters. It's dog eat dog to some degree. Well, I come from New York. And so that's how it is when you're driving. It's whoever's going to get in front of you is going to go. Right. And so it's just, but the second that we start learning the spiritual information, it changes all that to a degree, because now we know we can drop into a meditative state while driving, but it's an open eye, just calming of the body and being peaceful while you drive. Do not close your eyes while you're driving. And then you're actually slowing your heart rate. And then that frequency, it actually pulls down a magnetic energetic, which allows you to project it at all the cars around you. So being in that environment of chaos, it actually taught me how to project my aura field or my magnetics and then slow down the cars around me. So people would go from hustle, bustle, all chaos to, and then all of a sudden it seemed like everyone started driving peacefully. And so we can project this energy at each other. It's a love-based emotion. You have to open your heart up to love in order to do things like this. Granting permission to receive assistance from the star people. Perfect. So they know who you are. They can hear you. You actually, they're watching all of you guys. So you could just speak to them. You could say, thank you guys for helping me. And so many times they start to make the contact and communication through signs and synchronicities. So you may see, hey, Derek, you may see a lot of synchronicities on the cars or license plate numbers, or right. You may even see, actually it's pretty funny, because when you need a crystal will be given to you when your frequency is high and you're bouncing in with the synchronicities. And so anytime I need something, it always just comes to me. And so I noticed, like, even the new crystals, I got this new blue one. I love it. Look, it's just gorgeous. Right. And so what I plan, it's like my old one, well, it's not old, it's mine. Right. This was mine. I spin this around like so many different lives, but we take these, we program them, right? Just by having them and holding them while we're talking and making communication, the energetics actually get encoded into the crystal. So, the star people are saying the crystals can also be used as a form of two-way communication. So, okay, so we've always heard that crystals, you can make communication with the actual crystal and it tunes into the crystal collective. But what they're seeing now is it's a form of two-way communication where you can ask the crystal to make telepathic communication with an extraterrestrial being or your star family. And then you dive into the crystal and allow the crystal to give you the information that's coming from your star family. So that's another way of accessing the telepathy, they're saying. So many people don't know their star families. And so maybe they don't feel confident enough inside of them to say, hey, I'm Arcturian, right? And so, but when you don't know, how are you supposed to know? You know you have an intuition. How many times have you had the same intuition? Now, when I was a kid, I was drawing A's all over all my stuff. I thought it stood for anarchy. What are you going to do? Right. And so I was drawing these amazing A's. It was all over everything I had the anarchy sign, everything. And so the one day, it was back in 2019, I drew a little A, and then I had just written Arcturian with the A. And I was like, oh my God, that's who I'm talking to. And then that's when I knew. They have been with me my entire life, even when I was, what? So many synchronicities, but I've been people saying it's about witchcraft. Is witchcraft positive or negative form of energy, since manifesting works without a ritual? Well, rituals. When you wake up in the morning, let's say you have your glass of water and then you take a shower. That's a ritual. And so what the star people encourage us to do is positive rituals that are going to help heal our body. They're going to help our behavior patterns to become the best of the best for us, right? So that we're not choosing toxic food, we're choosing healthy food. And that's a ritual. And so when you work with rituals, things like that, you start patterns that are healthy and positive. But witchcraft is something that it was kind of something that was pushed on the people so that anyone who had any type of intuition or activated any extrasensory abilities, or let's say they had a deep connection in with Mother Earth, maybe they could talk to the trees, right? And so those people were burned. Think about that for 1 second. Have you ever heard of somebody doing witchcraft who burned somebody, or has other people come into the situation and burn the witches? Right? So we always want to have a look at the story. So are we being told the truth, or are we being told something that could potentially be manipulative? In my personal viewpoint, because each one of us has to make this choice for ourselves. In my personal viewpoint, whoever is doing the murdering is usually the bad guy. The Arcturians are laughing. It's so funny. Whoever's doing the murdering, my eyes would be on them, because I'd be like, why do you want these people murdered? Right? And so how bad are people that they need to be murdered? Because murder is like, that's like the end. Like, have you ever gotten into a fight with someone and then all of a sudden it's peace? Like, you can find peace after the fight breaks out, right? And so that's how human beings work. That's also how children work. And so when we fight with people or we don't like somebody, it's a fight is on, like Donkey Kong, and then I'm making peace with you 5 minutes later. And so, or we're just going to agree to disagree and we're going to let it go. But when it gets to the point of we got to murder the entire species, right? There's something wrong with the person doing the murdering. So that's just something to keep in. That's my perspective, though. That's not the Arcturians. They thought it was funny, but that's just me. So I don't believe in murdering, and I don't believe, not only that, but witchcraft in itself. When you have a look at the people who claim to be witches, they're the people who are activating the extrasensory abilities. They're just doing it by utilizing plants. And so they're blowing cinnamon to attract abundance. We're sitting here figuring out a frequency code using Galbani numbers, which is a binary codex. So instead of, you could take the Galbani frequency, you could write it down. So like people know to put an 8 on a piece of paper and slide that into your wallet, and you'll always have money in your wallet. So is that witchcraft? That came from science. You know what I mean? So some of the witchcraft that those people were doing, it's actually very scientific. So if you take the frequency of cinnamon, it actually lines up a little bit with the Galbani code for abundance. So it really is those people, they understood how to manifest just differently, right? But you have to remember those beliefs and that whole system of religion, if you want to call witchcraft a religion, that whole system came because there were highly intellectual, scientific humans on the planet who got knocked down to a level 0. So we take a look at the Tartarian mud flood, right? Now this one it's mind blown. Have a look at the buildings on the earth that are here, and they've been here for centuries. And so some of these built like the Roman buildings, and they're still standing. Who built them? Why is that building still standing? And you guys, we can't build a house that lasts more than 30 or 40 years. The houses that were built 100 years ago, we always say it has good bones. And so the house is still standing. The house it looks amazing. Like the wood, all the walls, everything is still there. It's the craftsmanship was so much better a long time ago. So what happened to our society that people basically, I mean, we zone out a lot behind the TV, and the TV is not pushing educational content. So that in itself, it has an effect on the consciousness of all people. Because when you have all these people zoning out to the Kardashians, what are we learning from that? Are we learning anything intellectual? Are we really increasing the consciousness on the planet? Right? And then not only that, but the entire money system. So now the people who would or could potentially become the great architects of the world are not, because they have to go and sling burgers and fries because they don't have a way to go to college, or they don't have a way to get the information that they need to take their architecture to the next level. Right. And so this is a suppression, is unfortunately to say that, but we're being suppressed. It's highly suppressed. However, now, when you feel like you're not being suppressed, a wonderful thing happens. All of a sudden, there's a guy who's in prison. I don't know his name, but he was in prison. And he had always felt like every morning when he woke up, when he wasn't in prison, he had always felt like he was in a prison. So then he manifested being in a prison. Well, when he was in prison, he was like, well, the only thing that they can't take away from me is my mind. And so he was like, I'm going to feel free. I'm going to sing. I'm going to dance. I'm going to do artwork. And he did all of that, and he started to feel free. Well, then out of nowhere, he manifested being set free. Let that sink in for 1 second. Your emotions manifest your external reality 100%. Time, space makes it so it takes a little bit of time to fully manifest that. That's a safety. So they call it the safeties on the hologram. This way we don't blow ourselves up or manifest Godzilla. And so in 5D, that time space is very rapid. So there's no delay. So if you're having any lower toxic emotions, wham, they manifest instantly. If you're afraid of getting sick, wham, you're sick in 5D. That's the way that works. This is why we go through 3D to 4D and then to 5D. 4D is a half step. So time space gets a lot quicker. So you'll start to notice things manifesting that are positive, loving, caring, kind. But then you want to start holding it to more loving, caring, kind frequencies and emotions. And then 5D will manifest fully. This way you don't blow yourself up or riddle yourself with cancer and become all emotional, right? It's very easy to become emotional when something on your body breaks. Very easy. Imagine if your finger got cut off. How emotional would we be? I would be a wrecking ball. Oh my God, my pinky, right? But how emotional would you be? Now, when you're in 5D, you have to release all of your fear. This is what they were doing in the pyramids. So they had different temples set up so that the guys would go through like a whole process of releasing all of their fears, because they would drive them into 5D. Or they had different chambers where they were able to access 5D. So it's just absolutely amazing. Amazing. But this is where we're on the spiritual path. So we are going to get there. Now, we do not have to worry, because especially with the solar flash coming and the sheer fact that we have star families looking out for us. So once again, from my personal perspective, I know what my star man is fully capable of doing. So if I'm about to have a really bad emotion, let's say I get scared, he can calm it down. And so he calms me down, and then he's like, now, why did you have that emotion, right? And we dive into the emotion, we unpack it. So everything is about unpacking. So we're going to go through an attachment release class next Saturday. Today is the energetic class, but the attachment release class, we pull all the attachments off of you, but then it's your responsibility to unpack any and all of the emotions. And so when I went through my attachment release in last July, they told me you have to unpack the emotions. And I was like, what do you mean? I feel great. Right. And I felt like I had a ton of energy. I can go run a mile. And they were like, no, you have to unpack the emotions. And I was like, okay. And so I didn't quite understand what that meant, but that basically means that all of the memories that generated all of that attachments and all of that baggage and all that distortion, all that stuff, you have to, whatever memories come to your mind, because the cycle repeats. When those memories come to your mind, you have to handle them in the now moment. And so when a memory comes to your mind that has something to do with the past, then, okay, how does it make me feel? So one, you want to call upon your emotion codes. What emotion do I fire off when I think of that memory? And then we start to unpack it and heal it, process it, digest it, any attachments that may still be linked. And so the attachment names some of the names are crazy. Let me say, I wrote a 10-page 10 pages of attachment names, and I'm not even done. I had to go through each and every attachment name and feel it, so that when I know the emotion code for the attachment and I'm working with people, that I can feel or sense the attachment by the emotion code, and I could tell them which one they have to cast it off. And so it was very taxing because I had to go through 10 pages of this. So maybe later, promise is broken, don't leave me, dopey. That's an eyes blurred attachment. It messes with your brainwave speed. So anyone who's really smart and then all of a sudden they get the dopey attachment, they may like slur, like they may become like, we call them like dopey, right? And so that's the attachment name. But who knew that attachments had names like this? They also have visual representations. Now, I can't sit there and draw these things, right? But I can see them. So maybe in collaboration with an artist, we can, and like I was telling you guys before, all this information has the potential to turn into like a book of shadows. A book of shadows is just telling you all of the different emotions, all of the different attachments, because when you have something, now you know how to cast it off. In order to cast off an attachment, you need to know the name or the location code or the emotion code. How does it make you feel? And so many times, yeah, the 7 dwarfs, right? Dopey was only one of them. And so it's just amazing. But we also have experiential attachments. And so I don't hear anyone talking about that. I don't really listen to anyone, but the star people talk about experiential attachments. And so that basically is an attachment that pushes an experience on you. So we'll take, for an example, stubbing your toe. And then actually the trippy one. My son had one called trippy something. Trippy. And then he kept tripping over the sidewalk. And then the second he said he cast them off, he stopped tripping. It was done. I was like, you see, I told you so. I love those moments. I do. I love them. When I'm just like, I told you so. Right? So this is how we do it. Who knew? I had no idea. I had to go through training. And so the star people, they have me in training. It's every day is training for me with them, right? Because it's, I have to do better. This way I can bring you guys knowledge and information. And so that's why I try to clean up my diet, right? Fruit, vegetables, try and keep it organic. Well, the melons are not really organic. There's nowhere to get honeydew or cantaloupe that's organic. So, but we try our best, right? That's all we can do is try our best and then try and find happiness in the now moment. So, yeah, wonderful. Thank you guys so incredibly much for joining me. Does anybody have any questions? So we do have an energetic class is tonight at 7. The seats are limited, so you can reserve your space at daniellelipton.com. And so only the 7 p.m. class, the 3 p.m. one is done. So, but then next weekend is the attachment release. I do offer sessions. And so after we do the attachment release class, I am going to start to offer attachment release sessions. They're very taxing. And so it's because I'm tuning into every single emotion code and we're diving through. And so you have to have crystals handy. You should have tissues handy for that. But it's not going to be a half hour on the phone. It's going to be like an hour or 2. And so it depends on each person, but we're going to just leave it open. So after the attachment class, I'm going to start the sessions for the people who took the class. So those people get first shots at doing an attachment session with me. So do you find out the emotion code name by asking it? Yes. And so we drop into each chakra and we see how it makes us feel. And so if you feel an emotion, what emotion do you feel? Now you want to go in and you want to say, is there a memory associated to that emotion? And just allow your body to talk to you. The body can talk to us in so many different ways we're just unaware of. And so you can actually drop in and you can feel every single organ in your body. Is dementia an attachment? Yes. And that's a memory loss attachment. So yeah, dementia, you need to get the monoatomic gold or even the Shilajit. I would do the monoatomic gold first because that one works so much better for the brainwaves. Now, anyone who personally knows me, I've been telling you guys, I healed Alzheimer's. I sat in a chair for 6 months and I was unable to communicate with anyone because they would say a sentence and it was gone. It was completely mind erased from me and I was unable to reply to them. And so after 6 months of that, then I took the monoatomic gold and 30 days later, I felt like an encyclopedia. So and it was wonderful. But back then I was learning all about the conspiracy. So I wasn't really tuning into like the spiritual stuff as much. So, but we are able to heal Alzheimer's, dementia, all of that thing. Now, not only that, but there's new research coming out pertaining to vitamin D. And so when you're in the sun, your vitamin D levels go up. And so it alleviates your pain. And so you want to have a look at his vitamin D as well. Parkinson's disease, too. Now, we took rats. And so I didn't do this. The scientists did this. And they gave them Narcan. So Narcan is a drug that they use for people who overdose on like pain medicine or narcotics, whatever. And so, but they give it to them to save their lives. Now, when they gave it to the rats, they went into like what seemed the same, identical to a narcotic withdrawal. And so the vitamin D levels are directly affecting the narcotic opioid receptors in the brain area. And the Narcan, it removes the vitamin D, which removes all of the opioid in the receptors. Like this is how your chemicals in the brain work. This has nothing to do with any type of chemicals that you're putting in the body. This is just how your brain works. And so, but when you're putting the Narcan, the rats are doing the same thing as the narcotic overdose people who just got hit with Narcan. And so now we take a look at Parkinson's. Parkinson's always has a lack of vitamin D, and their body is itching and twitching the same as the person going through narcotic withdrawal. It's all connected. So for Parkinson's disease, they should really try a vitamin D light bulb. Or even Planet Fitness now starts, they have the red color UV therapy. Try that. Check their vitamin D levels. You cannot get the UAVB by a pill. You just can't. It's not, you can't have it in a pill. It has to come from the sun. Now, when you go inside of a tanning bed, or when I go and I look at the sky, I see tiny little particles. And so the star people said that's what's known as fairy dust or ether. It's a vitamin or it's a frequency wave that's coming from the sun. It's hitting into the upper atmosphere, and I could see it. I always thought it was dehydration. It's not, because now I can see it in the tanning beds too. So that means we want to really be aware, right? So anyone who's got any sort of, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, right? We want to start to do our own research, and we want to start to talk to one another. These are only ideas from a stay-at-home mom. So just take them, do your research, see how you feel. A light bulb, what does it cost? $20? Put a UV light bulb in your room and see how it makes you feel. That's all. That's all we can really do, right? And so I believe Canada also said that Parkinson's was a side effect. It wasn't an actual disease. It's a side effect. So of a lack of vitamin D that you cannot get from a pill. It has to be the light. Now, why do we see vitamin D deficiency in the civilization? Because my cousin worked in a cancer office. She said because vitamin D affects your cancer levels, the cancer people were in there, but she was seeing people who were landscapers, who were outside every day of their life. They were coming in vitamin D deficient. And so you have a look at what's going on in the upper atmosphere and the spraying and all that nonsense, and it's reflecting the UV back up to the sun. Plus, we're using sunscreens, and some of the sunscreens are not healthy and positive and beneficial, right? So you really want to get your vitamin D in the first hour of this, like we're sun gazing. The first hour and the last hour is the strongest, and it's not going to burn you. And so you just go outside, wear as little clothing as possible, a tank top and a pair of shorts, tiny. Right? Even though it's winter where I am. So you go to Planet Fitness and you go and you get the red light therapy, right? It's an artificial means of getting the job done, but you don't even have to do it a lot, maybe twice a month, right? So we're not trying to get tan. We're just trying to re-up our vitamin D and our UV. It's very healthy and positive and beneficial. Now, they did go on a smear campaign talking about, the tanning beds make people old and wrinkled. Sure, if you go every single day. But we're not doing that. We're just going randomly, maybe 3 times a month. That's all. And so now we're getting the benefits of the UAB, because that's the one. And not only that, but that's the UAB is the one that has an effect on our consciousness. It's raising our frequency. It's the reason that we're sitting down right now having this conversation, because by allowing that frequency to change, it's expanding our levels of consciousness to allow us to ask the question, why? Why is the world in the condition it's in? Why are we doing things the way that we're doing them? And how can we make it better? Sun grays, nude, and grounding. I'm not doing I would, but there's houses all around. Okay, question. I am now seeing myself in dreams doing nasty energy clearings in my dreams as I do in real life. Is there any significance? Seeing myself in dreams doing energy clearings. Oh, it's not nasty. Where did the word nasty come from? Is there any significance? Example, I put my hands in a triangle and float from the top to the bottom. Yeah, that's a synchronicity. Your dreams are always going to be showing you what it is that you're meant to be following or guided to do. So many times, especially with the light workers and the star seeds. So we're here because we hold a higher frequency naturally. And so many of us have always felt extra loving, caring, kind, right? Like maybe people, they do bad things and we forgive them really, really fast because we always want peace. We're the peacekeepers. We're the black sheep of the family. And that's normal because we are not designed to fit in. We are designed to bang to the beat of our own drum, which is love. And so when you are more forgiving, more loving, caring, kind, of course, you're not going to fit in with all the kids in the playground because they're not like that. That's okay. Just be yourself and allow what you have inside of you to grow and flourish. And don't be so hard on yourself. You do not have, I'm not going to go and jump in an ice bath. It's not going to happen for me today. However, it may happen in the future, but am I going to beat myself up for it? No. I'm going to be okay with exactly how I am today. So today, I'm just going to be a rock star because that's what I believe I am. But I'm very humble about it. However, it's a positive affirmation. So whatever you guys want to be, start telling yourself that's what I am. You want to be a rock star? Be a rock star. Do you want to be a genius? That's another one. I walked around telling myself I was a genius, but that's because I was a cripple. So what else are you going to be? You can't be the athlete, right? So, okay, I'm going to be the genius. And then all of a sudden I started finding that my IQ seemed to increase, right? So whatever you're telling yourself that you are, it's going to manifest. It has to because you're placing your conscious focus and awareness on it. So keep doing it. Now, energy work and energy projection, it's one of the highest things that we can be doing. Not only, not even as an income. I'm not even referring to that. I'm just referring to as it's a game changer for the entire civilization. Because when we start healing each other and healing all of the people who don't believe any of this information, right? Because I can go to them, I could lay my hands on them, I could rub their back. And then in my mind, I'm sending them Reiki and I'm doing all their chakras and all this stuff. But it's up to their higher self to accept it. So it's okay. Nobody can tell you not to send love to another person. And so anyone who tells you you have to have their permission, that is kind of like a manipulation. Now, they have to authorize any healing. And so that's the permission that they're talking about. But that happens naturally. So it's okay to send love to any person, plant, or thing that you guys feel drawn to send love to. Do it. I do it all day. I envision rainbows and butterflies hitting every single person around me. It's their higher self will accept it or reject it. That's fine. But I'm not going to change me. Right? And so that's how we all should be. So you lay hands on people, you send them love and light. And then if they heal, hey, I stuck a crystal into a Catholic person's hands. They were extremely religious, like programmed to a T. Like they had undergone 60-something years of religious programming. And so their priest said crystals were not good. But when I put a crystal in that person's hands, her Kundalini energetics, wham, snapped into place. And so it didn't matter to me if she believed or not, because she had already had the experience. Her consciousness was already changed because now she had an experience. And by doing that, what actually happens is all the primary chakras, wham, they snap into place. So, right, that's a process of healing. So either way, my job was done. Her higher self authorized it. It was approved. Just by putting a crystal in somebody's hands can have that effect. So if you guys know anyone who's really depressed, sad, isolated, tuning into the lower frequency ranges or the void, right? We call it the void because it's a frequency that spirals down. So how many times have we heard, oh, she's spiraling, right? Or she's spiraling out of control. And so that's because our frequency range, we spiral down. It goes like this. And then the upper ones goes like this, like a pyramid, right? It spirals up and then it goes to a point. And that point connects into the higher self. That's how that whole system works. It's genius. Absolute genius. Yeah. How do we learn to track energy and discern what's not ours? Okay. So That one is actually funny because when I work with my Starman, we do advanced telepathy training. And so when you're dealing with thought grid attachments, the thought grid attachments will throw ideas or thoughts in your mind that are not yours and that usually they're always negative. And so the negative attachments are going to push things like anger, violence, all these negative emotion codes, right? Or thoughts, which they work with the emotion codes. And so that's the thought grid. Now, the star people will push negative things, but they'll keep doing it. They're like, you have to throw it in the garbage can. And so each one, wham, in the garbage can. These are all the thought grid attachments, right? Like I was telling you guys, we have to have a full list of all of the attachments to know how to clear them all. So this is my job, my mission on the planet. Who knew? But we were going over all of the thought grid attachments, all of their names, what emotion codes, what thoughts are they pushing, all sorts of things. And so, but one at a time, I start pulling them out of my mind, just like this. I'll go up to my head, I'll grab it, I'll throw it in the trash bin, right? Except my trash bin has a little void space and it gently floats them down into their own reality. That's it. So it's a very peaceful and polite way for them to exit. Or you can even just tell it, get off, go home. And so it all depends on what you guys feel like doing. Some people can't reach the bottom of their feet if the attachments are there. That's why we just tell them, get off, go home, and the attachment will leave. These are beings. If you had different types of glass, Dysarian glass, I think the name is, and so it allows you to see into the astral realms. So when you throw one of these attachments off, it looks like a demon. They look ugly. And so, but they get off and they dump and they go home. Now, when I was in high school, we had an experience, and this is when I was very physically focused, but we had an experience at my friend's house, and her aunt was crazy. And we knew she was crazy. She was like that, not witchcraft crazy, but she was crazy. And so, but one of my friends had a big attachment on, and she came into the room out of nowhere, and she was like, get off of him. And then she shooed him. She opened a window and she shooed the thing out of the window, and then she closed the window. So that makes me think maybe they can't go through the walls. Who knows? She saw the thing. I don't see them. I feel them. Right. And so it's different. I just know that they leave, but she actually saw the thing. And not only that, but she was able to tell exactly why it was there. And the reason that the attachment was there was actually manifest into my friend's life. So to me, it's like, mind blown. Somebody actually seen it. So I needed to have that experience because now I had something to okay, well, this has happened before, right? When it's in your memory and you're like, oh, that's what was happening. And so now I understand it. We are all going to get to this level one day. So every one of us should shoot for, I need the information, right? Give it to me because I need to know. I need to know these things. I want to know what's going on, right? I've always been that person where you can't give me a crumb. I want the entire cake. I want to see what it is. I want to dive it under the microscope. I want to know. And so this is the same exact thing. So the more and more focus you place on this topic, the more information that will be gifted to you, right? Not that I eat cake. It's just an example. I can't have any sugar because me and Amanda, we're going strong on the no sugar, no chocolate. Okay. Hardest job on earth is being a stay-at-home mom. That is actually a fact. And so when you are a stay-at-home mom, the reason why it's the hardest is because you don't really get to leave your environment for yourself. And I'm not even talking about a supermarket. I'm talking about taking a day off where you just don't have to worry about anything. And it's not your responsibility to clean the house. And then you come home and your house is a mess and all this stuff, right? All of that stuff is very stressful. It's not the way that we were meant to be lived, right? And so things were different in our grandparents' day and age. Actually, it wasn't even the grandparents' day and age. My grandparents, both of them had jobs. And they rotated with shifts. They both worked at one building and they rotated the shifts in which they went in. And they had 6 kids. And so, but the generation before them, the woman stayed home and the man's income from one job, working 40 hours a week, was enough to provide. And everyone had like 5 or 6 kids back then. It was totally different than what's happening now. So now we have more people on the planet. It would be very logical to think, well, with more people means that we have to work less. Right. And so, but you're seeing more people work more hours and being offered less hours to work in the job. Like that whole, when you start to see things breaking down, like a system, like retirement benefits and all that stuff, when you start to see things breaking down, sometimes you just have to release resistance and be okay. And so that's where I am with that whole system. Even the school district systems. I see a lot of these systems breaking down. And a part of me is like, we have to be okay in allowing the hologram to remove things that are not in our highest and best. That doesn't mean fight it, right? And oh, the retirement system, da 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 da. You don't have to worry about it. You just have to be at peace with what is in the now moment. What is meant for you will always find you. That's just the bottom line. And so any experience that your higher self wants to have, it will manifest into your physical life. It has to, because it's in your magnetics, especially from childhood. This, what I'm doing right now, this was in my magnetics from childhood. They told me that I have an Arcturian mom too. And so I knew he was my husband from my past life, but now I know I have a mom, or mother is exactly what she said. So, right? Like all these things, many of us have star families. We have people out there in the solar system that are rooting us on, cheering us on. We're just unaware of it. I was unaware of them for a very, very long time. Now I'm aware of them. Now it makes me feel better because I'm aware of them. And so each and every one of us, we should be trying to make contact and communication with these beings. Why? Because it feels better to know that we have a family out there who actually understands us and who is here to support us as we do this mission on Earth. And so, for a long time, when you dive into the spiritual knowledge and you realize that it's a hologram, a lot of times we go through this stage of, well, it's only a hologram. It's only a mirror reflection, right? And so we dive into that. But the truth of the matter is that each person here is its own independent soul. And so your soul is just tuning into my frequency. So we have an agreement. So we have an experience so that I can learn, you can learn, and we can both evolve. That's how that works. But we're all souls. Each one of us is connected, right? And we have soul tribes. We have soul families. And so that whole, it's only a hologram, doesn't really matter. That's a stage though. So just be aware of that. And just whenever you feel your mind start to give you some of that, be like, that's not true, right? Because we have the source frequency and everyone has a soul and there's an afterlife, right? We're all connected. There's like, I don't know if the word hierarchy is the correct word, but it's kind of like not a government, but it's kind of like a government, but it's like positive in like the heavens, and everyone gets together and they like there's organizations and things to do over there. And it's not just like they're, manifesting Skittles coming out of the clouds and hanging out, right? Like they have not jobs, but they have things that they do. And, there's systems in place, schools, all sorts of stuff. And then they can make contact and communication with us. So the second any civilization reaches telepathy, the heavens or 5D, it's the same thing. They start making contact and communication. And so they do this through the hypnotists. This is a normal process of evolution. So we've had this on Earth before. We've had people channeling. So where is it that the mindset of, that's crazy, where did that come from? That's what we want to ask. Where did that come from? Where did that thought originally form? And so was it something programmed onto us? Because I could tell you something right now. From an early age, I was teaching my children that magic is real. And then they would watch the cartoons and the TV, and then they'd be like, it's not real. And I'm like, well, who told you that? And they're like, they just watched it on a TV show. And so the TV show is programming us to believe that these types of things are not real. So now, if you guys have ever had a physically focused friend and that friend like pays attention to the news, you'll notice that it changes the way that they think. It's like a regurgitation of the stuff that's coming out of the TV will manifest. And that's okay too, because everyone is entitled to have their own experience. We have to hold love for them and compassion for them. And so, but we release resistance. And the second we release resistance, it allows them to fully either wake up, or we've released resistance, so it really doesn't matter. They'll wake up in their own due time, and that's okay too. And when we start to handle different things like that by releasing resistance, and what's in alignment for me will come to me. So if my friend is supposed to wake up to the spiritual knowledge, the universe is going to give it to her. There's nothing I can do about it. I release resistance. And so I have several friends, including my parents. And so my parents, oh man, I put them through the ringer, because I used to sit there all day long and talk science to them. And they would just like, their heads would like spin around like they had had enough, right? You guys can just imagine me. So, but yeah, I would do that to them nonstop. And then when I finally released resistance was the second my mother started waking up. And then my father started listening to like George Noory, talking about aliens and stuff, right? So the second that you release resistance is the second that it manifests, because you change your energetics, which releases the resistance from them waking up. So if there's ever a piece of you that's like upset or frustrated that your partner won't wake up, or he's not spiritual enough, or she's not, right? All that stuff, you have to let it go. When you let it go, it allows it to shift. You have to be okay with it too. If they don't wake up, it's okay, because it's their right as a God sovereign being for them to manifest whatever lifetime or experiences that they wish to manifest. It's okay. And so we know this because you can't beat a dead horse, right? Or you can't make the horse drink the water, something like that. So it's all the same thing. We have to just be at peace with what is in the now moment. And then what we are meant to experience will come for us. And that's actually the way of 5D. Because when you think about 5D, you're living in the now moment. You're love and light. So are you angry or upset at that person in 5D? No. Because your love and light and your higher self fully embodies you and wants to have as much fun. So you're going to spend the most amount of your time having the most amount of fun. That's 5D. You're going to instantaneously manifest things as you need them. So you probably won't need things like a house, clothing, all of this stuff, right? Because where you go at that night, you will always have somewhere to sleep. Somewhere will be manifest. That's 5D. Right? Now, look at the way that the star people are with their UFOs. It's kind of like a hotel, right? And so everyone, you have a room, but that room changes, it configures. There's holographic settings and projections in there. You can change what's on the wall, right? You can change, you could put a beautiful image, or there's like sleeping pods where you can change the image that you're sleeping in or the temperature and all this stuff, right? So they always have what they need in the now moment, but they don't have to own it. They just, when they need it, it's there. Replicators, so that they get fresh, brand new, clean, brand new clothes every single time that they put clothes on. That fit them because the little camera takes a body image snapshot and gives them the clothes that fits them the best. That's the power of AI. And so that's where we want to live, right? We want to live in a high tech, or we want to live somewhere where we are manifesting the high tech for ourselves. Right. And so I want to manifest from inside of me. I don't want to need a replicator. I want to wham, here it is. I did that. Right. And so it's jumping the line in the evolution. So many of us, there's two different paths to manifest 5D. And so one is a spiritual path in which you start manifesting according to your own frequency. That's a very high frequency. Many of the Jedi or the Jed Pillar Unk, they're frequency generators. The Jedi, the yogi, all these people, the monks, they're trying to do it with the spiritual means. And so that's okay too. Or we have technological means. Many civilizations in the stars use both. And so like the Arcturians, they'll have 5D spiritual people and they'll have technological means as well. And either one is okay. You could do both. And so take a look at the Star Wars movie, because now the star people are stepping forward saying in the Star Wars movie, you had people who were levitating things and instantaneously manifesting things, but then they would also go on the UFOs and they would use technology when the technology was there. It's all the same thing, right? And so it's only an experience. So we are actually going to cut the live because I'm going to take a little break. I definitely know what you mean. 3 kids, single stay-at-home mom. I got 2. 2 was enough for me. And so, but yeah, they're homeschooled too. And so I think about the school districts, because when you graduate the school districts, they put a square on top of your head. So they're basically keeping your mentality in a box. And so when we want to think circularly, look at the way our brain is. It's circular, right? We want to think outside the box. We've heard that saying multiple times before. We've all heard it. And so what does that mean? You're accessing your creativity, which allows you to problem solve better. So when you take a person and it's like a behavior pattern, right? So this is also how trauma works, and we can brainwash people through trauma. Well, it's the reward system. So you read this book, you regurgitate all of that, and then I'm going to give you a number. That number, if you get an A, you get a reward. That's a reward system programming that we're imposing on the children. And so when you actually realize the psychology of it, the psychology is genius, but it's evil being imposed on us. And that's where I stand on that. But when you see it done to the children, now all of a sudden, the way that they think is very linear, straight line. Magic isn't real, right? They don't take the time to smell the roses or to believe in fairies or even to believe that a solar flash is going to come and it's going to change things on the planet. They're taught to believe, I got to do this. I got to wake up early. I got to be the best of the best of the best so that I can go to college, spend all this money, get a degree, and then I can get a job, right? So they are trained in this one way. And so we're seeing that that's not correct at all, because the people who are doing like trade jobs, like say you're getting trained to be a baker. Now all of a sudden you're taking that bakery training that you got as a child, and now you turned into Duff. And that man can make a cake, right? He's like an artist, right? And so, but if he would have went to college to be a banker or something, it would have imposed on his creativity. And so many times when we get stressed out, your creativity is the first thing that gets shut off. That's your solar plexus, right? And so when you get stressed, you have a lack of energy, your solar plexus gets cut off right away. And so we go into the solar plexus, we activate it. Now, I was just talking about this earlier today. Think about people who go to rehab, any type of rehab. And so what do they have them do? Art therapy. So what is art? Art is a creative process. So it's activating your solar plexus. I feel like this channeling is on fire today. It's wonderful. But yes, you do art therapy and it's activating your solar plexus. You're getting excited. So you're getting more energy in your grids, which then in turn is allowing you to change the process of manifestation. Okay, Instagram, hooray to encouragement. How about no dreams? No dreams too. No dreams happens when the person is in fight or flight systems. And so I have experienced that. I couldn't visualize any dreams. I didn't want to do anything. I could barely just take a step to make it to the bathroom. At one point, I had no energy. My hormones were a mess. Yeah, no dreams, it shuts down. And so the dreams is the pineal gland, because that's where all of your thinking, your thought processes in the astral realms work. And so you have to realize the way the soul comes down into the body, it ricochets out and then it comes back in. When we are lacking dreams, it's because all of the energy starts sinking into the heart and it gets compressed into the inner Kundalini channels, the star people are saying. And then it gets, because fight or flight system's too long, it makes it so you can generate a life-ending cycle, or a life tragedy may manifest, the star people are saying. And so, but your energetics pull in. When it pulls in, it's preparing for that tragic spiral down frequency, which allows a manifestation of the lower frequency things to manifest. So no dreams means your soul is like, it's going back into the heart, because it comes down and it comes up and compresses in, and then it fires up at the moment of death. So this is just the way it works. And when we know this, actually, the star people are saying it looks like a ball of energy in the heart and a line going up and one down, because the chi energetics and the magnetic go different ways, they're saying. And so that's how that works. The fight or flight system makes your energetics pull in. So it pulls into the heart and it prepares for up and down. So, but even when you have a tragedy, let's say there has been people who have driven a car off a cliff. When they drive the car off the cliff, many times your angels or guides, because we all have people watching over us, right? And so they'll yank your consciousness out of your physical body. So the physical body goes flying off the cliff. And now all of a sudden you're hanging out in the astral with your angel, but you probably can't see the angel. You'll probably just be floating there. And then all of a sudden the car will land. Your body is still beating. It's still alive. And so the helicopter comes, they pull you away. Then all of a sudden your consciousness, or your astral form, or your rainbow body of light, whatever you want to call it, it zips over, and now you'll have a memory of being in the hospital. And then they're performing surgery, and then all of a sudden, whack, you'll wake up in your body. And so this is how it works in the soul form, right? And so all the people during 9/11, right? We love and bless them. Their souls came into this reality to have that experience, and each one of their souls were pulled out before they died. So it's kind of like you know how everyone always tells you when you dream you can't see the moment of death, and that's because that moment of death your consciousness is not supposed to experience. It's supposed to experience everything up until. So if you guys knew the way an animal potentially saw getting eaten alive. And so the animals go through this a lot. That's why they keep reincarnating into the same animal. And then all of a sudden they level up. So like instead of being a dog, they're a bear in the next lifetime. But the way that they experience the moment of death, of being eaten, their time and space slows. The opioid receptors release all sorts of hormones so that they don't feel anything in the physical body as they're being eaten by another animal. So now I was attacked by a dog when I was a kid. I had my nose ripped in it too. And thank God I'm okay now. But this happened when I was in like 6th grade. And so when that happened, I didn't really feel any pain. And nobody could understand why. They were like, oh my God, we see your bone. It's horrible. Like the people around me did not want to see it. It was gross. And so, but I didn't feel any pain, so I was fine. Now they did the stitches and then I felt pain afterwards. So your body is designed. The reason that we take any type of pain medicine, even a Tylenol, is because you're taking the pill, which is activating your hormones in your brain to release, to you are shutting off your pain. It's kind of like taking a sugar pill. And so any medicine that you take, any plant that you take, you're taking in the plant, but you're actually generating a hormone response. So your body is the one generating the response. You will eventually get to a certain degree in your evolution in which you can go into a meditation state and you can generate the hormone response without taking the sugar pill or whatever plant. And so now the star people, because some of the energetic clearings that I went through, they were very, very, very intense. And so you could not really sit through them. They were painful. And it's okay because it needed to be done. But they had something, I'm assuming it was a piece of technology. He's saying, yes, piece of technology. And they went click, click, click. And I would feel the hormones get released. I would feel it was like whoosh. And it would relax me. And like it just felt like all my pain was gone. So, but it wasn't all the pain. And then they kept having to do it. So it was wild. I was dying 6 years ago. I healed myself and I weaned off the drugs. The matrix was feeding me. Opioids are evil. Opioids are just an experience. And it actually allows a lot of us to tune into the lower frequencies in order to experience that type of darkness. Because when we dive into the darkness, it gives us this beautiful opportunity to slingshot into the light. And so you imagine the path of evolution. It goes up, it goes down. Well, according to the law of polarity, you have a frequency wave like this. Imagine that there's a dotted line in the middle of it. So the amount of darkness you hold is the amount of light you can tap into. And so if you're not walking like the severe darkness, then you're not tuned into the severe high notes. And so that's the way that works. The easiest thing on the planet to do to tune into the darkness is drugs, because the drugs will cut you off from the source and it will ground you into a physical reality. Who knew? It's doing us a favor, right? It's something so evil in the planet. People are dying. All this nasty stuff is happening. But who knew? It's actually, we're benefiting from it spiritually speaking, right? And so I say that with the utmost heart. I have actually lost family to drugs. So I do understand that too. And so, it's a part of life. Many people are affected by the drugs. But when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, it does allow us to tune into low frequencies and tune into high frequencies. So we just have to put that out there. And I've had multiple losses to drugs. So actually, Long Island, we've had like an epidemic. And so it was all over the newspaper for a long time. And like you would hear ambulances constantly. And so what are you going to do? It is a part of the reality. And so we have to just send it love and light. And we have to be okay with the experience. Right. And so we send it love and light. And not only that, but, speaking of drugs, we're seeing all the negative ones pushed down the street. Now, what's going to happen when they start giving us, access to the smart drugs? Now, we can already see things like nootropics or something like that. And so it actually works to stimulate your brain to make you a little bit smarter, or it just helps people to study or retain information. But they have some type of, magical pills that can anti-age your body. And so I'm talking about you take 3 pills a year and all of a sudden you're 20 years again. So, those are and we shouldn't even be calling them drugs. We should be calling it medicine. That's a medicine that should be coming to all the people, right? It's the stuff that's going to be extending our lifetime, making us feel better, healing the cancers. All of these type of medications should be coming to the physical reality for all of us. Now, the way that starts to manifest is by not needing it. So, of course, you have some people who are like, well, I instantaneously healed myself. I don't need that. And so that's when we start to see those type of medicines manifest for the people, is when a lot of us, specifically the light workers, because we're the ones who do it first, we manifest being healthy again. So, of course, someone had to walk through the fire to manifest it to everybody. It's funny. Even marijuana. So marijuana is great because this is the way each plant works. And so we're not judgmental. Everyone who smokes, more power to you. That's great. My kid's father, he used to smoke a ton. So I've seen the cycles he went through with the plant. I don't really smoke. Once in a while, the gummies I would take, but that was all years ago. Now I'm all straight and fruit and vegetables, right? And no caffeine and stuff. But I don't judge people. And so marijuana works like this. You have a frequency range. And so if you're lower frequency than that plant, you could take that plant. It actually makes you really creative, right? So you might sit down, you might get a bunch of pages written, you might just bliss yourself out. It's absolutely wonderful. But the second that it becomes a habit or an attachment, it's the same thing. When you are ritualistically doing it every single day, right? So even the people in pain, and I hate to say that because I was a cripple, I know what pain feels like. And taking the pills every single day, it becomes a habit, it becomes a ritual. It becomes an addiction because if you stop taking it, you feel crummy, right? And so some people in pain, they stop the marijuana and then they feel crummy. So your frequency will match that plant. And so, but you won't really be able to go much higher if you're utilizing it constantly. The second you remove that plant, you'll notice that your dreams will come back to you. And then it starts to allow you to raise your frequency. Now, if you're utilizing it to reduce pain, then you're never going to learn how to get above the pain and to fully heal the pain so that you don't need the plant. And that was the thing I had I had to experience too with my pain medicine. I had to release the pain medicine and still be in pain, and then release resistance to the pain. Once I was okay being in pain, I was like, whatever, this is what God gave me. This is what it is. This is what it has to be. Then it went away in 2.5 weeks. So everyone can do this. But if you're latched onto that thing that's reducing your pain, and now think about it this way too. Now there's studies out that it's telling you, even a Tylenol, doesn't matter what kind of pain medicine you're taking. But even if you're taking a Tylenol, it's removing the pain, and then your pain is coming back higher than before. Right? And so what is happening when we're taking any of the pain medicine? Once again, it's tuning into the vitamin D in the body, and it's affecting the vitamin D, which affects the opioid receptors in the brain, which makes you feel more or less pain. So it's like removing the vitamin D. So sometimes Parkinson's people, when you give them pain medicine, it's affecting the vitamin D. They may feel better. Right? But it can become a habit because you're doing it every day because you can't regulate your body. We want to utilize regulation of the body on our own so we can step into our own mastery. And so, yeah. You do adult coloring books. Wonderful. It helps anxiety. Yeah, that's good. Very, very good. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Excellent. So at 7 p.m. tonight, which is like an hour and 10 minutes, about 13 minutes, we are doing an energetic grid class. And so that class is going to be for 1 hour. You can reserve your seat at daniellelipton.com. We're going to go over the energetic grids, how to reprogram them, all sorts of interesting information about your energetics and what they can do and what your perception and how it changes. And right. And this is really a precursor for the attachment class that's going to happen next Saturday. So I would like everyone to take both classes if you can, because the energetic grids and knowing how to tune into them and how to clear them is of high value when you're doing attachment releases. So, yeah, thank you guys so incredibly much. Thank you guys also. Sometimes you guys send me donations. I notice I see you guys. And so you can send those in also at daniellelipton.com. You can scroll all the way to the bottom and there's a little donation link. And then you can book a session with me if you want to have a healing session or a regular Star Family Ascension session. We have the crystal package. So the address for that, I know a couple of you guys are waiting to send in crystals, is P.O. Box 56, Emmaus, Pennsylvania. And that's 18049. And I'm Danielle Lipton. So thank you guys very, very much. You have many, many love and blessings, and you have a wonderful night.